There's a placard on the panel above seat 14C, small, white, one word, inoperative. The reading light behind it is dead, and it will stay dead for this flight and possibly the next several. A passenger sees that and reads it as an airline cutting corners. What that placard actually means is that somebody already decided, in writing, long before you boarded, that this exact item could fail, that the airplane could still legally fly with it failed, and exactly how many calendar days the airline has to fix it before that airplane stops flying. That decision lives in a document. Most of what passengers mistake for neglect is that document doing its job. Start with the names, because the names are where the confusion starts. For every transport aircraft type, an FA, a Flight Operations Evaluation Board, issues a Master Minimum Equipment List. The MMEL, that's a per-type document. It covers a type as a design, and it belongs to no particular airline. What an airline actually flies under is its own minimum equipment list, its MEL, and that MEL is derived from the MMEL for the type it operates. The rule governing that derivation is the single most misunderstood point in this whole subject. The operator's MEL must be equal to or more restrictive than the master document. An airline can look at a relief the master list allows and decide it won't use it. Going the other direction is closed to them. The regulation underneath all of it is 14 CFR 91.213, titled Inoperative Instruments and Equipment. That section is what makes a legal departure with a broken item possible at all, and it's written in the language of permission with conditions attached. Airlines operating under Part 121 and the charter and commuter operators under Part 135 work under the MEL provisions of their own parts. The practical effect is the same in every case. An item goes unserviceable. Somebody looks it up in the approved MEL. The document either has an entry for that item or it doesn't. No entry means no dispatch. The absence of a line in that book is as binding as anything written in it. Every entry that does grant relief comes with a clock. The MMEL sorts repair intervals into 4 categories, and the letters carry hard numbers. Category B is 3 consecutive calendar days. Category C is 10 consecutive calendar days. Category D is 120 consecutive calendar days. Category A is the odd one out. It has no standard number at all. For a Category A item, the interval is written into the remarks column of that specific MMEL entry, which means the answer changes item by item and you have to read the line. And the clock doesn't start when the item quits. It starts the calendar day after the deferral is recorded. That recording step matters. It's the moment a failure stops being a maintenance surprise and becomes a tracked, dated obligation with an expiry on it. Placarding is the visible part and the smallest part. The item has to be marked inoperative where the crew and often the passenger can see it. For plenty of entries, marking it isn't enough on its own. Where the MEL says so, the equipment has to be physically deactivated or pulled off the aircraft entirely. Circuit breaker collared, component removed, so a dead system can't wake up partway through a flight and do something nobody planned for. Then there are the 2 symbols that do most of the quiet work in an MEL, an entry marked with an M in parentheses calls for a specific maintenance procedure to be accomplished. An entry marked with an O in parentheses calls for a specific operational procedure. Those procedures are the price of the relief. All of this rests on how the airplane was designed in the first place. A transport category aircraft is built with deliberate redundancy, multiple hydraulic systems, multiple electrical sources, multiple air conditioning packs, duplicated instruments in front of both pilots. That redundancy exists so a single failure is survivable, and once it's designed in, the airworthiness question changes shape. What matters is whether the capability remaining on this aircraft is sufficient for this specific flight. The MEL is the written answer to that question, worked out in advance by people with the type design in front of them, so it doesn't have to be improvised at a gate at 5 in the morning by someone under pressure to push back on time. Look at what actually gets deferred, and the shape becomes obvious. One of two air conditioning packs goes down, and the entry for that item carries conditions on how the aircraft may then be operated. The auxiliary power unit, the small turbine in the tail that supplies electrical power and air on the ground, goes down, and the aircraft can still fly. But now the operator needs ground equipment waiting at every station it touches, which costs real money and real coordination. A thrust reverser goes down, and the entry brings performance conditions with it. I'm deliberately not giving you numbers for any of those. The specific restriction depends on the aircraft type and on that operator's approved document, and quoting one type's figure as though it were universal is exactly the mistake this video is about. There's a detail that gets lost in the passenger version of this story. The relief in the master list is a ceiling, and airlines routinely sit below it. An operator can look at a Category C relief on the type-level document and write its own MEL to treat that item as Category B, or to grant no relief for it at all, based on the routes it flies, the stations it serves, and its own maintenance program. So when you hear that two airlines flying the same type handled the same broken item differently, that's usually the reason. One master document, two derived documents, two different answers, and both of them legal. To be clear about what this is, an explanation of what the document does. Nothing here is guidance on how to defer anything. The operator's approved MEL and the aircraft maintenance manual govern that work, and they govern it for the people who hold the certificate to do it. This video is no substitute for either. What's worth carrying off the aircraft with you is where the real pressure sits. The MEL is the one place where commercial pressure and airworthiness meet in writing, item by item, with dates attached. A single deferred cabin light is that system working as designed. The place it gets interesting is an airplane flying with a stack of open deferrals at once. Every one of them individually legal, every one on its own clock, all of them on the same airframe.